Order, order. We now go on to questions to the Secretary of State for Business and Trade, and I call Jade Botterill.
Number 1, please, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, small businesses are critical to our economy and to the future of all our communities, which is why we're bringing forward our small business strategy later this year to improve the environment for small businesses to grow. As part of that work, we're consulting widely with small businesses and other stakeholders in the design of the Business Growth Service, which we will launch later this year.
Jade Botterill. Madam Deputy Speaker, before Christmas, I was pleased to meet with some of the many micro-businesses operating in Ossett and Denby. They told me they previously felt like they fall through the cracks of government policy and economic ambition. Could the Minister set out his Business Growth Service will assist these micro-businesses, as well as broader measures this government is taking to help these smaller organisations to grow? Minister.
Well, I take this opportunity to commend my honourable friend for her support for the micro-businesses that she's mentioned in her constituency. We want to get behind the efforts of all those who are willing to take the risk to set up their own business. They help to make our communities more vibrant, they create jobs, and they help to generate the tax revenues that make our country stronger. The Business Growth Service will be designed to help business get access much more quickly to the support they need from government, such as how to apply for a start-up loan, where to get access to training and management support, or to get help with exports.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Minister very much for his very positive response to that question. In Northern Ireland, and specifically in Strangford and my constituency, small businesses are the backbone of the community. Many of them businesses work from home. So I know this question is probably specific to the mainland and England in particular, but can I ask the Minister, what response or what discussions has the Minister had from the Department in Northern Ireland to ensure that we can also benefit from this growth business policy which is happening here, but which could benefit us in Northern Ireland as well? Thank you so much.
Minister.
Well, the honourable gentleman has always been a great champion of small businesses in his constituency and in Northern Ireland more generally. We want to make sure that the Business Growth Service complements the support that the Northern Ireland Executive and the Welsh Government and the Scottish Government give to their businesses already to improve the quality of advice and support that there is available to all businesses in all parts of the UK.
Jerome Mayhew.
Number 2, Madam.
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Government is making the reforms needed to deliver sustained growth in the long term, developed and delivered in partnership with business. We've taken significant steps, including launching a consultation on the modern industrial strategy, establishing the National Wealth Fund, transforming our planning rules, committing to a 10-year infrastructure strategy and introducing the Employment Rights Bill, boosting productivity. We've also added extra protections for small businesses by increasing the employment allowance and freezing the small business rates multiplier.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I think the Minister may have misunderstood my question because I was asking about how he was going to reduce employment costs. The President of the CBI has recently said that because of things like the Employment Rights Bill coming along, you're going to find people laying people off and less likely to employ, and that's before the national insurance tax on employment imposed by this government. So does the Minister accept responsibility for the increase in unemployment that we are already seeing?
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his question. I think it's something of a stretch to say a bill that isn't even law yet, and most of the provisions of which won't come into force until next year, is actually driving unemployment already. But I would like to quote back to him what the CBI said yesterday about our growth plan. They said it was positive leadership and a vision to kickstart the economy and boost productivity. That is welcome.
Shadow Secretary of State Andrew Griffith.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the week of Labour's latest reset, could the Minister tell us how he does reconcile imposing an additional £5 billion of costs on the government's own figures on business with growing the economy? And what was it he thinks about the breakfast with the Prime Minister that saw bosses 24 hours later be laying off more workers?
Minister.
Well, I thank the Shadow Secretary of State for his question. We believe a 0.4% increase in the overall pay bill, which is what we've estimated the Employment Rights Bill is going to increase on businesses is actually a fantastic return for greater security at work, greater pay, better staff retention, increased productivity, making jobs more secure and family-friendly, banning exploitative zero-hours contracts, supporting women in work at every stage of life, providing a genuine living wage, turning the page on industrial relations, bringing an end to fire and rehire. This is a pro-business, pro-growth, pro-worker agenda from the government, and this is something we're absolutely determined to deliver.
Sarah Owen.
Question number 3, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Minister. Come along, Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The government understands the effects that fireworks can have on animals and vulnerable individuals. Consumer fireworks have a noise limit of 120 decibels, but there are indeed numerous low noise options available on the market at around 90 decibels or below. This year's Fireworks Public Information campaign has emphasised these low noise fireworks and the importance of considerate use. Additionally, I am meeting with businesses, consumer groups and charities at the conclusion of the fireworks season and indeed in the next coming week or two to discuss their concerns about these issues.
Sarah Owen.
Madam Deputy Speaker, anti-social fireworks keep our constituents awake, cause alarm for pets, seriously affect people with PTSD or special educational needs. I know the Minister has heard extensively from colleagues, from campaigners and charities on this during the Westminster Hall debate on my bill. Will he meet with me to discuss the implementation of the common sense measures presented in my fireworks bill, including lowering the noise limit on fireworks sold to the public, closing the licensing loophole and reviewing social media and online sales?
Well, it's always a pleasure to meet with my honourable friend, and I'm happy to do so. Indeed, I think we will see if we can get her to come along to some of the other meetings we're holding with interested groups, some of which is mentioned, who have all got an interest in this area.
Gagan, Mohindra.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I wish everyone a belated Happy Chinese New Year for those celebrating from yesterday? One of the beauties of our great country is its diversity, and with that does mean that throughout the year there are causes for celebration. My own community in South West Hertfordshire will have Diwali, Eid, Christmas, Chinese New Year and other celebrations which often entail the use of fireworks. When you have main events like Christmas and New Year, there is an expectation of fireworks and the noise associated with it, so pet owners inevitably take safeguard measures for that. But can I urge the Minister, because of the likelihood of fireworks throughout the year, that we get onto this quickly, where we don't stifle celebrations, but we do protect our animals and those vulnerable children that may be affected by noise.
Minister.
I thank the honourable member for his question. He's absolutely right to recognise that there are a number of events throughout the year where fireworks are used. But I think it would be wrong to characterise that as people having an expectation that there will be noise. I think there is sufficiently lower decibel products on the market now for actually everyone to take this more responsibly, and that's something we're going to be exploring in our meetings over the coming weeks.
Alan Strickland.
Number 4, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Minister.
With permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, I will answer questions 4, 10, 14 and 16 together. This department, and indeed departments across the government, are working extensively on developing our industrial strategy, which the party opposite opposes, but which business and industry welcome. Last month, we launched the Industrial Strategy Advisory Council, a very impressive group of the UK's top business leaders, policy experts and trade union leaders. My honourable friends, the Chancellor and the Business Secretary attended the Council's inaugural meeting on the 17th of December. And in addition, we are currently analysing over 3,000 responses to the Industrial Strategy Green Paper from businesses, academics, think tanks and unions. And their insights and feedback are incredibly valuable as we develop the strategy.
Alan Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I strongly welcome the inclusion of defence in the draft industrial strategy and was pleased yesterday to host in Sedgefield a roundtable with the Minister for Defence Procurement and Industry. But many of the innovative defence SMEs we talked to spoke of the struggles they have with red tape, bureaucracy and contracting with governments across, with departments of government across Whitehall. How will ministers grab the opportunity of the industrial strategy to remove this red tape, which too often can thwart SME growth?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend for his question? And I'm really pleased he had that round table. It's quite a turning point, I think, to have an industrial strategy which has defence as one of the sectors and building new relationships across government departments with our colleagues who work in defence is a really powerful and important thing to do. He speaks to a wider problem that a lot of industry has in terms of dealing with government agencies, government departments. We are working very hard to make these things easier because growth is our #1 priority and we have to break those barriers down.
Tracy Gilbert.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's essential that the government's industrial strategy creates manufacturing jobs across the country, including in my Indra North and Leith constituency. Renewables UK's offshore wind industrial growth plan shows the UK can be a global technology leader in advanced turbine tech, foundations, electrical systems and cables. Can my honourable friend commit to using our industrial strategy to ensure growth in these areas to put British manufacturing at the heart of our clean energy transition?
Can I thank my honourable friend for her question and for her defence of her constituency and the ambitions that she has that we share. I believe the report that she refers to came out before this Labour government came to power. So with the new policies that we have, with the new drive and ambition from both our Secretary of State here in the Department of Business and also the Secretary of State in the Department of Energy, we are powering forward with our renewable agenda, and we will make sure that all of our growth driving sectors speak to her area of the country, everyone's area of the country, and drive growth across the board.
Sarah Coombs.
Thank you, Madam. Manufacturers in my West Bromwich constituency are really excited about the upcoming industrial strategy and all the growth that will bring. Steel and aluminium businesses in particular are concerned about the upcoming CBAM, the gap with the EU, and whether the whole system will be ready for implementation. The CBAM will have a big impact on our ability to trade and growth if we don't get it right. So can the Minister assure me that she's going to be working with HMT to ensure that we get this right and that it supports manufacturers in the West Midlands?
Minister.
My honourable friend, I know, will hold this government to account in terms of what we are doing and how we are going, and she will push, and already has done, to make sure we are doing everything we can for the industries in her area. The CBAM will be introduced in 2027, and she speaks to concerns that I have had conversations around. Steel in particular is very important to this country, which is why we are developing a steel strategy, which will set a future direction of travel for steel. But we are working with the EU, with industry here, to make sure the CBAM works and does what it's supposed to do.
Paul Wall.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Andy Burnham's Atom Valley Mayoral Development Zone is creating a world-class supercluster for advanced manufacturing right across 70 million square foot in Rochdale, Oldham, Bury and Middleton. So Rochdale's Kingsway Business Park will be home to the SMMC, the Sustainable Materials and Manufacturing Centre, a world-class cutting-edge research centre. So will the Minister join me in supporting SMMC and possibly arrange a visit either by herself or the Secretary of State to see what's happening in terms of jobs of the future in Rochdale?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend for the question and for bringing to this House the work that is going on for the Atom Valley Development Zone, which is incredibly important, exactly what we want to see, the Mayor in Greater Manchester is to be congratulated for his leadership in this space as well. I am very interested in the work that my honourable friend refers to, not least because of the critical minerals strategy that we are developing and the graphene work that I know will be underway in the manufacturing centre hub. So I very much look forward to talking to him more about what is happening and how we can help.
Desmond Swain.
Why is it that the government's policy on energy is driving the uncompetitive energy costs in absolutely the wrong direction, when Sir Jim Ratcliffe has pointed out that actually the principal threat to any strategy is the uncompetitive costs of those enterprises that will have to populate it?
Minister.
This government inherited very high energy costs from the previous government, who had taken no action to make us more energy secure as a country. We are powering through to have clean, green, homegrown energy that will bring costs down, that will make sure we are secure as a country and not reliant on the whims of global leaders and the price of oil and gas. We will bring those costs down. We will support our industry, which is something I'm afraid the previous government just failed to do.
Miss Law.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Over the last week, the UK Government has committed to support for a runway in London a football stadium in Manchester and a science corridor for Oxford and Cambridge. Yet for the last year, both the Conservative and Labour governments have failed to act to secure the long-term future of Grangemouth after Unionist announced the closure of the oil refinery there. So despite general election promises to step in and save the plant, why is the UK Labour government willing to jeopardise jobs at Grangemouth, the country's energy security, which you've just spoke passionately about that we need to secure, and wider industrial action, wider industrial strategy through this inaction?
Minister.
Well, the honourable member will be pleased to hear that we have re-established a working group with the Scottish leader and the Welsh and the Northern Ireland to make sure we are working collectively, because we don't want to take a party political approach to the growth of all our nations, and we are working together and well with the Scottish Government on Grangemouth, where we are working at pace and putting in investment to make sure we can support, where we are working to transition people from North Sea oil and gas into the new energies of the future. The passport that we published, we have set up Great British Energy, which is going to be headquartered in Aberdeen. There is a lot of work that is going on. We need the Scottish Government to support us in that work, and we will work in partnership, because that is what will create good jobs.
Sir Gavin Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In my constituency of Stone Great Worley and Penkridge, the chemical industry is an important employer, with the Hex Group and the SI Group employing many people in my constituency. As has already been touched on, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is already highlighting the extinction of the British chemical industry. My chemical manufacturers need to ensure that they're buying energy at the same price as they're buying in Germany, the Netherlands and France. When are they going to be able to do that?
Minister.
The chemical industry has been suffering for many years because of the previous government's economic policies, the way they crashed the economy under Liz Truss, and the way that they have failed to deal with energy prices, the way they have failed to deal with energy prices over multiple years. I have met with the chemicals industry. They are a very important part of our economy. We need to do what we can to protect them. I am having conversations, and we are building our energy policies. We are building our industrial strategy. As part of the industrial word salad. Gosh, that is cut me to the core. That's word salad abuse from the front bench. If I could just very briefly say, the industrial strategy has set out 8 sectors which are going to turbocharge the economy. Across all of those sectors lie our foundational sectors. The chemical industry is one of those sectors. We will support that industry in a way that his government failed to do.
Shadow Minister Harriet Baldwin.
I shall try to avoid a word salad, Madam Deputy Speaker, and we've heard from various different sectors how important it is for any industrial sector to have stable and predictable energy costs. Now, we've had a month, Madam Deputy Speaker, where we've had very little sun and we've had only intermittent wind. And so we've been very heavily dependent this month on imported oil and gas. And I wonder, what challenge are the ministers in the business department making to the Energy Secretary over his policies?
Minister. I'm disappointed in the Honourable Lady's approach to this, and I'm disappointed in the Conservative Party's overall abandonment of previously strongly held views about the need to balance climate change with our economy. It is a fact that we are moving faster towards renewable energy, and last year 50% of our energy came from renewables for the first time. We are growing at pace because it is cheaper. Onshore wind is the cheapest form of energy we have. Solar is very cheap. Floating offshore wind, it brings us huge opportunities. This will bring our costs down. It will make sure we are energy secure, and it goes hand in glove with growth, as the Chancellor set out in her speech yesterday.
Shadow Minister Harriet Baldwin.
But, Madam Deputy Speaker, we've changed policy in this country. Her government has changed policy not to issue any new licences for domestic oil and gas. So we are going to become more dependent on imports at the times when solar and wind are not working. So unless we can increase nuclear generation, it is nuclear week in Parliament. I would like to hear what pressure she's putting on the Energy Secretary to make new nuclear an important part of our industrial strategy.
Well, I sit jointly in the Department of Business and Trade and the Department of Energy, so the Honourable Lady can be reassured that I talk to my colleagues and I'm working with them, indeed leading on hydrogen and carbon capture, which is an important part of this mix. We are clear that nuclear is a very important part of our future, and we are clear that the strongest approach to deliver energy security and bring prices down is to have all of the opportunities available to us building at pace, which is why we are trebling our solar, we are doubling our wind, we are making sure we are supporting the big nuclear but also the SMRs. So she can be reassured that we are putting in place a strategy that the previous government frankly failed to do.
Sabina Brackenridge.
Question 5, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Minister.
Big one. The question is about developing a steel strategy, and I'm really delighted to tell the Honourable Member that we are working very hard on our steel strategy. Immediately that we have finished these questions, I'm going to Sheffield to talk to industry about the future demand that we will need. Steel is an important industry for our future. We have £2.5 billion invested in that commitment, and we will make sure that we turn around the decline we saw under the previous government and deliver a steel industry fit for the future.
Sabina Brackenridge.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The steel industry is an important part of Wolverhampton North East's heritage and must remain a part of our future. Can my right honourable friend outline how the £2.5 billion UK Steel Strategy and New Steel Council will boost competitiveness and secure jobs at Tata Steel Park in Wensfield, the UK's largest processing and distribution centre?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend for the question and for standing up for her community and protecting her industry, and I would be very happy to have a conversation with her about the changes that she thinks we need to make. Look, steel output in the UK fell by 49% in 2021, 30% in 2022 and 11% in 2023. What a awful thing that has happened to our industry. We need to turn that around. We do not underestimate how hard that is, but we are putting in place the money and the policies and the dedication from this government to make sure we support a thriving steel industry.
Bradley Thomas.
Number 6, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, with your permission, I will answer questions 6 and 13 together. We're continuing to work with colleagues across government to develop a programme that will revitalise the nation's high streets and support businesses. We'll publish a small business strategy later this year, and high streets will be a key pillar of this. We've already committed to continuing funding for business growth programmes like the Growth Hub Network and announced plans for a new business growth service.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, Bromsgrove received the devastating news that it is about to lose both the Lloyds and Halifax Bank branches within the town centre. These banks are a lifeline to many small businesses, particularly run by independent small entrepreneurs, as well as many residents who use the banking facilities, probably on a weekly or daily basis. Does the Minister agree with me that banking hubs can be part of a solution ongoing to retain banking services in our towns? Will he support my campaign for a banking hub in Bromsgrove, and will he agree to meet with me to make this a reality?
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I recognise that there will be a lot of concern within his constituency following the news yesterday. I do agree that banking hubs can make a significant difference, which is why we have been quick to roll out over 100 banking hubs already. There are another plans for another 76 already that have been developed, and we're committed in total to rolling out 350. In the spirit of one Thomas trying to help another Thomas, I'd be very happy to meet with the honourable gentleman.
Sarah Bull.
Madam Deputy Speaker, our small businesses are the lifeblood of our high street and often give young students the first opportunity for a job on a Saturday or in the holidays. But one of my small business owners said that she can no longer afford such roles because of the increase in the employer's national insurance contributions and changes to business rates, amongst other things. So what is the government going to do to support our young people into these jobs when small businesses are left in this awful position?
Well, the honourable lady might want to take the opportunity to check again with the business that she was referencing in this House, because in the most recent budget, the employment allowance was raised to some £10,500, which will help every small employer's national insurance bill every year, and should ensure that over 1 million firms actually benefit as a result. That is a very practical measure. More broadly, on the point about national insurance contributions, she will know that this party inherited a very difficult financial situation because of the mistakes made by the party opposite, and difficult decisions have had to be taken.
Brian Leishman.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Small local businesses in Grangemouth, such as pubs, restaurants, cafes, hairdressers, garages, etc., all rely on the custom that they receive from the workers of the Grangemouth refinery. However, the government have been very passive in allowing the Grangemouth refinery to close, thus impoverishing the local community. What message does the government have for, firstly, the Grangemouth refinery workers who face redundancy, and secondly, the small local businesses that rely on their custom?
Minister.
Well, my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, set out yesterday in her speech a series of measures that we want to take to boost growth across the country to benefit every part of the UK, from investing in modern road and rail systems, expanding airport capacity, rebalancing the planning system, driving investment in cheaper renewable energy, and also in creating a national wealth fund that can back new technologies of the future. On the specific concerns that my honourable friend has mentioned, I'd be very happy to meet with him if he thinks that would be useful.
Ewan Steinbeck.
Speaker, Falkirk High Street is the beating heart of our district. Recent additions include Barracuda Chippy, El Toro Gaucho Steakhouse, Greek Theory Restaurant and the Rock Bottom Beer Hall. Many Falkirk Town Centre businesses still raise with me the hardship they have faced because of cost rises, utility rent and parking increases over a number of years, and rateable value threshold changes from the Scottish Government. These pressures have contributed to decreased footfall and failing businesses over a number of years. While I welcome the commitment to shift the burden away from the High Street, can the Minister outline what further steps he has taken to support Falkirk High Street, and what engagement he has had with the Scottish Government to support shifting the rate burden away from Falkirk High Street taxpayers?
Well, we are. I referenced in an answer to an earlier question the establishment of the Business Growth Service, where we're working with the Scottish Government to begin to think through how our support through the Business Growth Service can support businesses in Scotland, as well as and complementing the support that the Scottish Government already provides. We're clear on the need to reform business rates to help support retail, hospitality and leisure businesses on the high street. And I'm very happy to meet with my honourable friend if he thinks there are further initiatives that we can take to help small businesses in Falkirk as well.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Clive Jones.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Richard Young Art Gallery is the last art gallery in Wokingham Town Centre and a proud feature of our local high street. However, political inactivity on business rates reform means that they are on the precipice of closing. I was shocked to learn that it was the impending cuts to business rate relief, with no measures in the short term to provide financial support, that has led the owner to fear for the survival of his business. High streets across the country are continuing to struggle. So what is the Minister doing to ensure small independent business like Richard Young's Art Gallery are supported?
Well, one of the reasons why the party opposite lost the confidence of the British business community was because, despite repeated promises to reform business rates, they actually hadn't taken any steps to do so. We have announced already plans in the budget back in October to reform business rates, to introduce permanently lower rates for retail, hospitality and leisure businesses. Party opposite, we're going to end retail hospitality and leisure relief in terms of business rates. We've chosen to extend that, and we announced at the same time in the budget that we were looking at what further steps we could take in terms of business rates reform.
Mohammed Yassin.
Number 7, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. With permission, I'll answer questions 7 and 8 together. Through increased inward investment, we can innovate, create jobs and deliver on our growth mission to become the fastest growing nation in the G7. And we have wasted no time, Madam Deputy Speaker. On top of the £63 billion raised in our International Investment Summit, our new National Wealth Fund has already leveraged £1.6 billion of private sector investment, and we have outlined ambitious plans for planning reform alongside a modern industrial strategy to secure record levels of investment.
Yassine.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm honoured to have been appointed as the UK trade envoy to Pakistan. Given the growing financial pressure on UK universities, with several leading institutions announcing job cuts amid the deepening funding crisis, what step is the department taking to foster stronger educational partnerships with Pakistan to help alleviate financial pressures in the UK sector while supporting Pakistan's educational departmental goals?
Minister.
Thank you. Well, firstly, can I congratulate my honourable friend on his appointment as the trade envoy to Pakistan? I can think of no one better, and I know that he will make a big difference in that role. The government took the decision to reappoint Professor Sir Steve Smith as our international education champion to ensure that UK-Pakistan education partnerships work continues as part of the international education strategy, which is now jointly led by FCDO along with DFE and DBT. Led by Sir Steve, the UK has worked closely with Pakistan Higher Education Commission in revising Pakistan's new transnational educational policy, and the work will continue, and I'm sure my honourable friend will bring great help to it.
Steve Race.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The South West is home to an incredibly important economy based on defence, food security, space, maritime and in extra life sciences and climate tech and research. We're also home to huge green energy potential utilising floating offshore wind. However, we currently need investment to our ports facilities so that these new green jobs will be based in the southwest and not in France or elsewhere. Will the Minister meet with me along with colleagues and the sector to discuss the future of green energy generation in the southwest?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend for his question? And I saw the talent and the potential for myself when I visited Exeter in September for Great South West's annual conference, and I am visiting the region again in a few weeks because I think there is huge potential, huge excitement and huge opportunities to grow. As my honourable friend knows, there is £1.8 billion for the National Wealth Fund to invest in our ports, and I would be very happy to meet with him and others to see what potential we can discuss.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Clive Jones.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I declare my interest as having a family member who has shares in a medical company. In the United States, President Trump created chaos by freezing funding for the National Institute for Health. His nominee for Health Secretary is an anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist. The United Kingdom has the perfect opportunity to seize this moment and make ourselves a beacon for global research investment. Already Wokingham has many pharmaceutical businesses, such as Becton Dixon and Hollister. What steps is the Minister taking to ensure that we attract global life sciences sectors to the UK?
Minister.
I was in Davos last week meeting with representatives from the life sciences industry and talking about the huge potential for growth that we have in the UK. One of the 8 sectors that we have identified as part of the industrial strategy is life sciences. We have huge talent here, huge skills, and we need to build on that and be really ambitious in what we can deliver. And I think through the industrial strategy, through the work with the brilliant industries that we have in this country, we can do just that.
Sir John Whittingdale.
Number 9.
Minister.
As the Chancellor of the Exchequer said only yesterday, we are driving forward planning reforms, boosting capital investment by over £100 billion over the next 5 years, and creating the National Wealth Fund. We're launching the Business Growth Service and will soon publish our modern industrial strategy, which will be unreservedly pro-business. Business leaders, not surprisingly, have backed those measures.
But the Minister will be aware that in the last few weeks, the CBI, the Institute of Directors, the London Chambers of Commerce have all said that business confidence is plummeting. Given the tsunami of national insurance contributions increases, business rates increases, employment costs rising, is it hardly surprising that confidence is being destroyed? And is this government, rather than promoting growth, not actually destroying it?
Minister.
I think the honourable gentleman needs to check his sources for comments from business leaders. Only yesterday, the British Chambers of Commerce, the CBI, the Federation of Small Businesses were making very positive comments about our plans for growth. And last week, interestingly, PwC published their annual global survey of global CEOs and to reveal that Britain was the second most attractive country to invest in the world, something I don't think the party opposite ever achieved.
Catherine Atkinson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Business confidence is increased when it knows it has the skilled workforce that they need to grow. It's been Nuclear Week in Parliament and it's been a pleasure to host Rolls-Royce and their apprentices. Their Nuclear Skills Academy is providing a pipeline of talent, and the same is needed across other industries, from technical skills to creative skills, multinationals to small businesses. What cross-departmental discussions have ministers had to help businesses of all sizes to provide the skills opportunities for our future workforce?
Minister.
Well, I pay tribute to my honourable friend for her support for Rolls-Royce, who are one of our great British companies leading the way in many export markets across the world. I was in discussions only yesterday with the Minister of State for Education, talking about our plans to reform the Growth and Skills Levy to help make it easier for businesses like Rolls-Royce and indeed other businesses to recruit apprentices and to find the talent they need to continue to be successful.
Minister Greg Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I draw attention to my entry in the Register of Interests. When consumer confidence is low, business confidence is low, and nowhere is that more visible in our automotive sector, with UK car production slumping to the lowest level since 1954. Autocar magazine today warns that the ZEV mandate is, and I quote, currently the industry's biggest headache, as consumer demand is not there to meet the stringent regulations which are increasing each year. When policy fails, it's sensible to admit it and change course. So will the Minister accept the ZEV mandate flies in the face of what consumers actually want, and a radically different path is required to boost business confidence in our automotive sector?
Minister.
No, I don't accept that, and I would just gently remind the honourable gentleman that the policy he refers to was a policy his party actually introduced. I recognise that there were many things that he and his colleagues are probably embarrassed about in terms of the record of the party opposite. The Liz Truss budget, with the Shadow Secretary of State helped to write, did huge damage to our country, huge damage to consumer confidence. The measures that, for example, the Chancellor announced yesterday are going to drive growth forward, and that's one of the reasons why businesses backed them very strongly yesterday.
Minister Greg Smith.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it normally takes longer than 6 months for a government to drift that far from reality. The SMMT predicts that just 775,000 cars will roll off production lines in 2025. That is compared to 1.3 million in 2019. The Telegraph today reports the slump has been accelerated by a slowdown in demand across Europe, particularly by drivers shunning new electric vehicles. So why does the Minister persist in a policy to undermine our automotive businesses by forcing them to make a product people just don't want to buy? Isn't it time to get the state out of the way, let our innovators innovate and boost automotive business confidence by letting them deliver to actual consumer demand?
Minister.
The honourable gentleman surely seems to have forgotten the extra investment that Nissan have announced, for example, and the extra investment that's been announced by a number of other car manufacturers. He and his colleagues were very clear in opposing the measures that we took in the budget, including measures that backed investment in the automotive sector. They set out no plans to pay for that investment going forward, and I gently encourage him to reflect a little further on the mistakes his party made in government, which have caused some of the problems that we're having to sort out.
Smith.
Number 11, please, Madam Deputy Speaker.
The Post Office has the freedom to operate the branch network within the parameters set by government. We protect the network by setting minimum access criteria, which ensures that in urban and rural areas everyone has easy access to their nearest post office. Those access criteria ensure that however the network changes, services remain within local reach of all citizens.
Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The community of Plymstock in my constituency saw its main post office close in September 2021 when Morrison's closed over 80 of their newsagents across the country. The post offices were essentially collateral damage. Despite the best efforts of the community, my predecessor and councillors like me at the time, after the post office downgraded the franchise on offer from main branch to post office local, it has been impossible to secure an operator due to the financial unviability of the model. With the final local branch announcing its closure later in the year yesterday, will the Minister set out what he is doing to further ensure sustainable joint post office and banking services can replace closing branches in constituencies like mine?
Minister.
Well, one of the measures that we have supported the post office in taking is measures to increase sub-postmaster pay, to make it a more attractive profession to come into, to deal with precisely the issues that she has just set out. She will understand, I'm sure, that I don't have specific knowledge of her constituency and the particular issues around the post office, but I'm always happy to challenge the post office on specific constituency issues. So if you'd like to write to me or speak to me afterwards, very happy to look at this issue in a little more detail.
Bob Blackman.
Question number 12, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Minister.
As the Chancellor announced yesterday, the Secretary of State will be travelling to Delhi in February to relaunch trade talks with India. Work is underway across government to prepare for these negotiations as we seek a deal that drives economic growth. An agreement with India, projected to be the fourth largest global importer by 2035, could provide further opportunities for businesses across the UK and further unlock growth.
Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank my constituency neighbour for that update to the position with India. The previous government, of course, had more than 15 rounds of trade talks before the general election, both in India and in the UK. The key issue here is, will the government now make sure that we in the UK gain access to the services market in India, which has previously been denied to UK firms, which is the key issue that we need to have in our negotiations?
Minister.
Well, as I remember rightly, he and I were probably the two most enthusiastic members of this House for a trade deal with India. Me slightly more than him, I think. And we're absolutely determined to do everything we can do to secure a trade deal with India. He will forgive me, I'm sure, if I don't give a running commentary on what our priorities are for those trade talks with India. But they do represent a significant potential prize for the UK if we can reach agreement. And the Secretary of State, and indeed my right honourable friend, the Minister for Trade, I know are determined to work extremely hard to do everything we can do to reach agreement.
McAllister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Whilst it's appreciated that a new trade deal with India could support jobs and prosperity in the UK and thus drive growth, can I ask the Minister to include in the work underway across government to prepare for negotiations with India that those discussions include the immediate release of my Western Bartonshire constituent Jagtar Singh Johal from arbitrary detention in India prior to concluding any trade deal?
Minister.
I recognise this is a very significant issue for my honourable friend. We remain absolutely committed to encouraging the Government of India to see faster progress to resolve this case. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, raised this case with Prime Minister Modi back on the 18th of November. We've made clear the need for faster progress towards a resolution on this issue.
Lewis Cocking.
Number 15, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Minister.
The Government continues to support entrepreneurs through, for example, start-up loans via the British Business Bank. We will publish our small business strategy later this year, which will signal a clear overarching ambition to promote entrepreneurship and articulate a new vision for business support, built around the new business growth service that I have already alluded to.
Lewis Cocking.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Economies grow and jobs are created when individuals are able to take risks and invest in their ideas. So what has the government done specifically since the general election to help more people in my constituency of Broxbourne become entrepreneurs?
Minister.
Well, one of the things that we need to continue to do is to make it easier to access the finance that entrepreneurs in his constituency and indeed across the UK to access the finance that they need to set up their businesses. So we've given additional money to the British Business Bank, an extra £250 million that will help to ensure more people have more access to finance across the country, including in his constituency. We will publish our small business strategy later this year, and he will see in there further measures to support entrepreneurs in Bromsgrove and indeed across the UK.
Melanie On.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wonder if I can ask the Minister what specific support is being provided for women entrepreneurs. They are the driving force behind small businesses in my Great Grimsby and Cleethorpes constituency and deserve all the support that they can get.
Minister.
Well, I strongly support the substantive point that my honourable friend has made, and we are backing the Invest in Women Task Force, which was set up to increase the number of female-powered businesses. One of the particular issues we are looking there is how to ensure that the proportion of investment going to all female founding teams increases significantly. It's been stuck at just 2% of equity investment in the last decade. It is one example of the things we need to change in order to help women-led businesses realise their full potential.
Ian Lavery.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday saw...
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Government is investing £1.4 billion with the North East Combined Authority to deliver shared objectives of economic growth and business support. This includes the development of the local part of the industrial strategy, guiding investment to deliver sustainable economic growth and delivering support to grow all businesses. This includes £420,000 in 23-24 of direct support to the North East Growth Hub, which provides businesses across the area with practical advice and support to grow and thrive.
Ian Lavery.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday saw full throated government support for projects across the UK, but not so much for the North East. The region was decimated by 14 years of the Tory government. And Minister, this cannot be repeated. What's the government going to do? Understand the question and accept what he says with regards to what has happened. But what is the government going to do to ensure that businesses in my Blythe and Ashton constituency can play their part in the cutting-edge technologies of the future and, crucially, see improved investment to create much-needed jobs with good wages and terms and conditions?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for his question, and I'm at one with him in wanting to see all parts of the country, especially the North West and the North East, have high-paid, well-skilled, good jobs in tech sectors in particular, but other areas where we can see a great advantage for the economy moving forward. The local skills improvement plan for the North East will help in that regard, and the excellent facilities at Blythe's Energy Central Learning Hub are supported with over £6 million of government funding. That's already developing sector skills in a real-world port setting with the reopening of the Northumberland line with reconnected towns in the south-east of Northumberland with Tyneside, improving links and opportunities across the area.
Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Question 18.
Minister.
Thank you. The automotive sector, as we've already discussed, is absolutely vital to the government's plans for green economic growth and for growing the economy more widely. That's why at the budget, my honourable friend the Chancellor committed to over £2 billion of capital and R&D funding to 2030 for zero-emission vehicle manufacturing and their supply chains. That's why we're consulting the industry on making sure that the zero-emissions transition works for the UK's car industry, and it's why we're working with the Automotive Transformation Fund and the Advanced Propulsion Centre to make sure we carry on innovating and carry on seeing the growth of the automotive sector in the UK.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Around 3,000 of my constituents in North Warwickshire and Bedworth work in the automotive sector. I've met many small and medium-sized businesses who provide engineering and manufacturing services for this sector, as well as Jaguar Land Rover, who have a battery assembly centre in my constituency. A career in the automotive industry should be an attractive prospect to many young people in my constituency. So can the Minister tell me what she is doing to support the sector to upskill their workforce and provide apprenticeship schemes so that companies are not left relying on immigration to fill skills gaps?
Minister.
My honourable friend makes a really good point, and there is a lot of work underway looking at skills across the board because there has not been thus far a government that has a proper strategy on the skills that we need and how we make sure we are training our own people so we don't have to rely on immigration. With the automotive sector, there are some examples, I think, in the automotive sector of absolutely brilliant apprenticeship schemes actually that we can learn from in other industries. But we are working with Skills England. I am having regular meetings with colleagues in the Department for Education, in the Home Office, in the DWP to make sure we really crack this nut to make sure these are good, well-paid jobs. We are encouraging people to go into them in the future.
We're now moving on to topical questions, and I call Sally Jameson.
Question number 1, Madam Deputy
Speaker.
The Secretary of State and the Minister for Trade are today at the funeral of the late and great John Prescott, and in this place we remember him. Yesterday, the Chancellor set out this government's plan for growth, our vision for the country, and our path to putting more money in people's pockets, reviving our high streets and supporting thriving businesses that create wealth, jobs and new opportunities. I was in Davos last week with the Chancellor and the Business Secretary, and there was enthusiasm about investing in a country that believes in open and free trade, that is resetting its relationship with the EU, that is forging new FTAs and creating stability here in the UK economy. It's a little surprise that the UK has just been ranked by PwC as the second most attractive country in the world for investment. But we recognise that growth will not come without a fight. It is why we are pressing ahead with our industrial strategy, channelling support to 8 growth-driving sectors in our economy. It is why we are developing our small business strategy, why we are working across all government departments to deliver the growth that we need. We are supporting the Prime Minister's plan for change, putting more money into people's pockets and realising a new decade of national renewal.
Sally Jameson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, the Chancellor announced that the Government will work with Mayor Ros Jones and the South Yorkshire Mayor to reopen Doncaster Airport. So will the Minister meet with Doncaster MPs to discuss how the Department can meaningfully help with this? And will the Minister also acknowledge that the growth agenda will only be a success if areas like Doncaster, South Yorkshire and the North are a critical part of it?
Minister.
Look, my honourable friend makes a really good point, and I'd be really happy to meet with a group of MPs from her area. The ambition on airport expansion was very clear, I think, yesterday in the Chancellor's speech. We are hungry for growth, and we set that alongside the need to decarbonise our airspace. And yesterday I chaired a meeting of industry experts to look at how we turbocharge our decarbonisation in aviation. So I'd be very pleased to meet with her, and I agree that we need to grow all parts of the UK to make this work.
Griffith.
Speaker, next week members of the PCS trade union in the Department of Business and Trade are once again out on strike. Does the Minister consider the union's demands are reasonable? And will they confirm to the House whether ministers will be crossing picket lines to return to work?
Minister.
There's a newfound respect for trade unions that the Shadow Secretary of State is showing after his previous government failing to engage with them, causing multiple strikes and huge amounts of wasted money in their government. This contract is not directly with government, with us in the department, but we obviously work with PCS, we work with all our trade unions. I meet with our trade unions regularly to make sure we have good workers' rights.
We need to keep questions and answers short and sharp. Alison Hume.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The UK has the world's largest deposits of the mineral polyhalite, which is used as a low-carbon fertiliser, but is not currently on the government's list of critical minerals. The extraction of polyhalite is being developed at the Woodsmith mine near Whitby, employing over 1,000 people. Will the Minister meet with me to discuss polyhalite's inclusion in the critical mineral list, given the potential of the deposits at Woodsmith to cut carbon emissions, boost exports and create skilled jobs?
So I met with Anglo-America to talk about Woodsmith just a couple of weeks ago when I was in Saudi Arabia, and it's a really important site, and I've promised to go and see it, so perhaps I can go with my honourable friend. It's really important. Look, the critical minerals strategy that we are developing will be a step change to the previous government strategy, which was just looking at a moment in time and saying we need to do a bit more of this, that and the other. We're going to have targets, we're going to be driving forward, we're going to be looking at our future demand, looking at the 8 sectors that we want to grow, what critical minerals we need, and how do we make sure we've got the supply chains to get that right.
Joshua Reynolds.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Outgoing Chair of the CMA warned that the Competition Authority being vulnerable to expediency or vested interests. Does the Minister believe that appointing a former Amazon exec risks this?
No.
Luke Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Basingstoke is a digital powerhouse, once dubbed the Silicon Suburb, and is home to over 1,000 tech companies and thousands of high-quality tech jobs. Could the Minister set out what this government is doing to support high-productivity digital hubs like Basingstoke to scale, to secure investment and to contribute towards this government's national growth mission?
Minister.
Look, my honourable friend is right. There is a lot of expertise and a lot of tech companies in his patch, and we want to see them thrive. And look, it's for the government to support that growth, to listen to what the barriers to growth are, and to tackle those. So our digital development strategy, the UK digital strategy, our AI strategy that the Prime Minister launched, all of these things are vehicles to support what are brilliant industries that we want to encourage. And I'd be always happy to talk to him about what more we can do to encourage more of them into his patch.
Max Wilkinson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituent Charlotte Durant runs the Aroyd Attic on Bath Road in Cheltenham. It's a plant shop. Before Brexit, she was able to import her plants from the Netherlands with no bureaucracy and without any import duties. Do ministers agree with me that a customs union with the EU would solve that problem? And if they won't agree with that, will they agree with me that more needs to be done to help SMEs like Charlotte tackle the competition from larger supermarkets, which are her main competitors?
Minister.
Well, I take this opportunity to commend Charlotte for her business, and to say that we absolutely recognise that we need to do more to help businesses like hers be able to export more easily to Europe. That is why the Prime Minister has set out our determination to reset the relationship with Europe. We've made clear our plans to negotiate, for example, a phytosanitary agreement with the EU going forward, which may make an immediate difference for Charlotte. It may not, but there are other aspects of our plans to reset the relationship with Europe which I hope will help.
Sarah Owen.
Despite repeated government and union engagement, it seems Luton could be set to lose one of its largest private sector employers as Stellantis closes its Vauxhall plant. This is despite our excellent transport connections, skilled workforce and proud industrial heritage. In light of this devastating blow, does the Minister recognise the importance of Luton Airport as a tool to invest in growth and attract private sector employment to our town?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend Anne for the work that she has done supporting workers at Stellantis, and I met with several of her colleagues this week. I met with Stellantis this week. I meet with them regularly, and we stand ready to talk to them about whatever they need to remain. The consultation finishes on the 24th, or finished on the 24th of January, and we await the final decision. She makes a good point about Luton, an airport that I use myself very often because there's very good train links from Croydon to Luton, and as there are from Croydon to Gatwick, I should say. There is a decision that we know that the Secretary of State will be making in due course, but the direction of travel, I think, in terms of growth and breaking down barriers was clear in the Chancellor's speech yesterday.
Sir John Whittingdale.
Despite the Minister's very brief answer to the previous question, is he aware that there is widespread concern amongst small and medium-sized tech firms and trade associations about the replacement of the chair of the Competition and Markets Authority by a former Amazon executive? So will the government make clear their commitment both to the operational independence of the CMA and the Digital Markets Union, and their commitment to obtaining stronger competition in digital markets?
Minister.
I can give the honourable member that reassurance. The independence of the CMA is very important. That will remain in place. A new strategic steer will be issued shortly as well, which will reaffirm that independence.
Joanna Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The pandemic exposed how woefully inadequate the previous government's statutory sick pay provisions were, and I'm very pleased that this government has committed to reforming those through the Employment Rights Bill. But can my right honourable friend look at the specific wording of the bill to ensure there are no unintended consequences from the provisions around the removal of the lower earnings limit for statutory sick pay? And will he meet with me to ensure that all workers receive proper statutory sick pay and no one is left worse off?
Minister.
Thank my honourable friend for a question. Indeed, it was the experience of the pandemic that really brought home the fact that millions of people in this country don't actually qualify for statutory sick pay. That is something that we are determined to deal with, and I'm quite happy to meet with her to discuss this in more detail.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, out of the blue, Bank of Scotland announced that it was going to close 5 branches in my constituency, leaving hundreds of square miles of the rural south of Scotland without a single bank branch. And whilst we must work with Link and others to ensure access to cash in these communities, does the Minister share my concern that not only is this leaving empty premises prominent on the high streets, but it is actually sending a message that the banks are giving up on rural areas and those who do not bank online?
Minister.
Well, I recognise that the right honourable gentleman's constituents will be very concerned about the Bank of Scotland's decision. He will perhaps know that over 9,500 bank branches closed between 2010 and 2023, which is why on this government, on this side, we were determined to ensure the much more widespread rollout of banking hubs, making a commitment to roll out 350 banking hubs. I would strongly suggest to the honourable gentleman that he gets in contact with Link and Cash Access UK to make the case for a banking hub in his constituency, and if I can help in any way, I'd be very happy to consider doing so.
Ian Lavery.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This week saw DeepSeek throw the global tech market into utter meltdown with the Chinese AI app, spooking investors to say the least. With huge national infrastructure projects required to underpin the UK's place in the AI revolution, what does this turmoil mean for projects like the Blackstone AI Data Centre at Camas in Bedlingshire in my constituency?
Well, my honourable friend and I have talked about this great opportunity previously. But look, I think what the rapid development and breakthrough of new AI models like DeepSeek tells us is we need to go further and faster to remove barriers to innovation and make Britain the most competitive market. We need to be developing this technology ourselves, which is why we have set out our new AI strategy and why we are scaling up our capacity, why we are creating AI growth zones, and why we are putting in place every vehicle we can to support the growth of innovation in technology in our country, because we will need it in the future.
Final question, Josh Babberande.
Madam Deputy Speaker, our precious High Street in Eastbourne is being blighted by a dilapidated Debenhams building on Terminus Road, whose owner has left it empty for years, attracting antisocial behaviour and crime. Will the Minister meet with me or support me to meet his MHCLG colleagues and Eastbourne Borough Council to discuss how we could use the new High Street rental auction powers to force the owner to make that unit occupied again, so that we can regenerate our High Street in the sunniest town in the UK?
Minister.
Well, as the honourable gentleman knows, I have already met with him to discuss some of the issues facing the high streets in his constituency. If he thinks I am the most appropriate minister for that discussion, then I'm happy to make sure that that happens. He may actually want to discuss this particular issue with colleagues in MHCLG, whose attention I will draw to this question, because they and their officials are working much more closely on the implementation of those particular powers.
That concludes business and trade questions. I'll give the front bench a few moments to swap over.